thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Mara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Kim Morrison.
And I'm Cindy O'Meara. And Karen is missing. Again, she's gone AWOL. But we have another girlfriend with us that can't take the place of Karen, but she's one of the girlfriends. And we thought that we would have a little chat with Helen Padarin, who by profession is a naturopath, but by...
And a herbalist.
And a herbalist. And what else do you do, Helen?
Nutritionist.
Nutritionist. Well. Oh my gosh.
So just that whole kit and caboodle.
And an author. And an author. And we'll get into what you've authored.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was so funny because I don't know your history. I don't know how you got into naturopathy and nutrition and what led you to do that. So let's go back to the beginning as to what got your interest in it.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Just one thing. This morning we were having breakfast, and this will just sum up Helen. She said when she was 3 years of age, she asked to go to a South Korea or a Korean restaurant because she wanted kimchi at 3. So that explains maybe her passion
a little
for
bit
food.
of the insanity.
3 years of age.
3. My 3rd birthday, my request was to go to Korean for kimchi.
How did you know about kimchi at 3?
I know.
3 years in Indonesia, spicy foods, that kind of thing. And obviously kimchi is not Indonesian, but I had evidently come across it then. So
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
No wonder.
And then who knew that 20-odd years later, because before fermented foods became so hip and popular, again, I was starting to teach workshops with a friend of mine. This is over 10 years ago now. And so, when my parents told me about this story of when I was 3, I just thought, how fascinating is that all these years later, 25 years later or something, I was teaching people how to make these foods, and they were such an important part of the work that I do.
So let's go back to, you were brought up in Indonesia. Is that what I hear?
So I was born in Canberra, and then at about 4 months of age, we went over to Indonesia, and we were there for 3 years or so, and then back to Canberra for school. And then as soon as I finished school, up to Sydney to study naturopathy and nutrition, and have been there ever since, except for 4.5 years in New Zealand.
Just tell me, so why nutrition and naturopathy? Like, what was your passion behind that?
Well, there was a few things that led to it. So, growing up, I didn't have great health. I was almost born 3 months premature. Mum was, with bed rest and steroid medications to stop labour. There's an interesting story about where that all started to happen as well, but we can get to that later. But then when I was born, I had eczema pretty soon. I developed asthma pretty quickly as well. Throughout childhood, asthma, then recurrent infections in my teens. Like every March I'd get bronchitis. I had pneumonia in year 9. I had shingles in year 11. Like I just went through the whole gamut of infections, it seems. And I also had experiences with depression through my teens. And I was always a greenie too, and I loved adventure and outdoors and going caving and hiking and all that kind of stuff. So I was always a bit of a greenie and a carer by nature. And so when I was in high school, I wasn't necessarily looking to be healthy though, because the way I was feeling was the only way I knew. I didn't know that there was anything different or better. But I guess I was avoiding things that I started avoiding things that I knew made me feel worse. And so that's where I guess my health journey began, because at school, when we would, leave school at lunchtime and go to the local shops, I'd be getting a big salad roll instead of Macca's or something like that. And it wasn't because I wanted to be healthy. I just didn't want to feel crap afterwards.
So you figured that out, not many people figure that out.
That way.
Yeah, that's interesting, that compliment that I didn't know what healthy felt like. And I think a lot of people actually don't
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and I think that's the case with most people these days because we're so out of sync with the laws of nature, basically, and we all, as humans, we're a really weird species in that we think we should be able to live outside those laws and still be okay and get away with it, and then we're like, well, what do you mean I can't eat my Cheerios or, you know, whatever it is. And it's just we need to remember that we are actually part of nature, not separate to it. And if we want to be well, we need to live within the rhythms and laws of it. So
I love that.
I do too.
And I wish we had more insight into that. So you're saying that you noticed that at high school. Did people give you grief for not eating what they were eating? Or was
my friends would, you know, give me a bit of slack, but I guess I just didn't care too much. And and I did it anyway. And that's not to say I ate good all the time. Like I still also remember in school getting, you know, those chicken and corn rolls in a bread roll with mayo. So, you know, there was still some of that happening as well. And it wasn't all good, that's for sure. But I just wasn't aware of any of that yet. You know, it wasn't. My mum was always cooking home cooked meals, and that was a staple throughout childhood. And she practiced what she could and taught us what she knew in terms of healthy eating, which, you know, there are some differences in what we now know. Margarine, when I was younger, was in the picture and things like that. But generally speaking, I think she did a pretty good job in terms of instilling values around eating healthy. So, but yeah, it wasn't a major focus, I guess, at the time.
So then you're at school and you're thinking, what am I going to do when I leave school? And
so first I thought I might be either a park ranger or a photographer.
Love it.
But I had a family friend who was a park ranger, and I knew that it was really hard to get into an area of work where you weren't just cleaning toilets and fixing fences, and so that didn't appeal to me so much.
I just need you to know, Helen, that was one of my aspirations.
There you go. Yeah. And you love photography.
Oh, my gosh.
I wanted to be a park ranger, but when I did Colorado Outward Bound, I met a lot of rangers. Oh, well, this would be a great job, you know, hiking and
the fantasy of it.
The fantasy of it, and then I heard the same thing.
Yeah.
How funny! And you, the photographer.
I love it. I wanted to do that.
Yeah, and so then I was thinking of nursing. And then my sister, when I was 15, my sister's 10 years older than me, and she had moved back home to have my niece. And while she had been living in Sydney, she did a short massage and aromatherapy course. So she had this book, The Fragrant Pharmacy, and that became my teenage kind of Bible, really. And I started making my own skincare, and when my niece would get ill, I'd get out the oils, and I'd notice that she'd respond really quickly. And so I started to think, there's something in this, because I was in a really, you know, science-based, left brain kind of family. Dad's a German engineer, you know, that kind of train of thought. So, you know, oils and herbs, particularly as medicine, had just not been part of the equation. So that really started to spark my interest. And then, funnily enough, I don't think I'd even heard of naturopathy, but I started doing those questionnaires at school of, you know, what kind of career would be appropriate. And that's when I started to learn, you know, about naturopathy, because in questionnaires that kind of thing came up, and it was that marriage between that caring nature and the loving of nature, which was really nice. So that kind of, that's what set me on my path, was actually oils.
Wow.
Yeah. So how about that?
Oh, that's one of my first books I ever bought.
Yeah.
The Art of Aromatherapy by Robert Tisserand and The Fragrant Fragrancy. I think that was by Valerie and Werwood.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you didn't go to uni then? Naturopathy, was that at
So
uni?
that was through, at the time, Nature Care College was the bee's knees of naturopathy courses. So and they had a partnership with University of New England. So I did a Bachelor of Health Science and advanced, and that was naturopathy, and advanced diploma in naturopathy, nutrition diploma, remedial massage diploma, and then I did a couple of extra modules too. So herbal medicine is part of naturopathy, but if you want the diploma, then you've got to do a few more modules as well. So I went on to do that too.
So you lived in Armidale? Is that where the University of New England is?
Sydney, but so each semester we would go up to Armidale for intensives, and we'd have a week up there of doing lab work and lectures. And then back in Sydney, we had support lectures.
So you did it online, your Bachelor of Science in Health Science?
No, it was done through Nature Care. So we had lectures for everything. All the material was from the university, but we had lecturers at Nature Care running us through it. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So then what happened? Like when you graduated, you went straight to Sydney? Stayed in Sydney,
So when I finished year 12, I went straight to Sydney, studied straight away, and have stayed in Sydney most of that time. But really, I was really eager to get into practice and made a few naive choices as to what kind of clinics. I was just so excited to start doing the work that, as soon as there was a room available somewhere, I was there, and they were really terrible setups. So I learnt a few lessons of make sure you're really fussy about what kind of clinical setup you want. And I had, towards the end of my course as well, done some clinic hours at Pymble Grove Health Centre in the dispensary there, and as a result of that ended up getting employed there in the dispensary and then managing the dispensary. And then it wasn't so I finished studying in 2001, and I had been working there and practicing elsewhere, but in 2004 a room became available at Pymble Grove, and I started practicing there. And I felt so naive and young in the early days. I was young. I was 21 when I graduated, and there I was in clinic with women going through menopause, and, I had no idea. So I kind of had to grow into it as well, just from that life experience perspective. And learning along the way. And I actually, as we all do, learnt so much from the people I was working with about myself as well. And there were things about my own health that still hadn't clicked yet, even though I'd done all this study. It was theoretical. And then when I actually saw people in clinic and they were coming in complaining of certain symptoms that for me I still hadn't registered wasn't normal, and I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got that going on. I should do something about that. So, my personal health journey has evolved as part of that as well.
That's an interesting point, actually, how many of us notice other things, other problems, other people's issues, but don't often turn it within or have a look or think about that. And we're very quick to judge looking out without actually even thinking about us in that. So when you were in practice and you were in clinic, and these people started coming in and you were noticing things. Yeah. What was the aha for you that made you... Because I think you think differently, even from a normal...
Yeah, I feel like I do.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to understand how you went to thinking differently. Like Cindy is not your normal nutritionist. Karen is not your normal psychologist. I don't think I'm a normal aromatherapist.
No, yeah.
So what...
Does that mean we're not normal?
Well, maybe we're
That's
normal.
why I like you guys. I guess there are a few avenues to it because, the way I practice isn't the way we were taught either, because courses are still totally outdated, as you know, which is why courses like yours, Cindy, now I think are so much better than degree courses that are available. And I frequently tell people you're going to get much better information doing that than going elsewhere. But I remember when soon after finishing studying, and at Pimble Grove, someone dropped off a copy of Nourishing Traditions, and I looked in and I was like, this is just weird, like, what is this? And I put it aside, and I didn't actually look at it again for another couple of years. And in that time, I don't know what it was, but obviously I was picking up bits of information here and there, and working with Anthony Underwood, with seeing his work with children on the spectrum as well, and work with the Mind Foundation. That just really opened up my viewpoint a lot. And then when I picked up Nourishing Traditions again a couple of years later, I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is gold. So it was really interesting to see that change. And then
improves again though when you're ready to read something.
Yeah,
it will. And Nourishing Traditions was written by Sally Fallon, who based that work on Weston A. Price, who was the dentist that travelled early part of 1930s, travelled around tribes to and looked at their teeth, but looked at what they were consuming and what he believed was the way we should be eating.
Yeah.
And I find it really interesting that I would have thought the 1930s that we were eating fairly traditionally. But he obviously saw that we weren't, and that things had changed.
As soon as roads were going into places, the diet changed. Yeah, there was more of the processed foods. Yeah. So, that was really interesting. And then because, again, being involved with Mind since the day it started, that just gave me so much more insights. And I was told when I finished studying, we were all really encouraged to find a niche. And that just never really sat well with me, because I thought, especially so soon after graduating, if I find a niche, I feel like it is contradictory to the naturopathic philosophy of holism. And I thought, I'm going to miss out on learning a bunch of stuff if I'm just focused on one thing. And so I kind of drifted a little bit in that sense. But when I went to my first Mind meetings, Mind started off in a school classroom, a gathering of parents in a school classroom. So it's grown immensely since then.
Do you want? Yeah.
So Mind, MINDD, stands for metabolic, immunologic, neurologic and digestive disorders. And their focus is largely on children, so particularly children with autism spectrum disorders, asthma, ADHD, allergies, that kind of thing. But in recent years has evolved a lot more to also include adults, and looking more at a lot of the chronic and metabolic conditions that fit into that Mind category, which, let's face it, is most modern chronic illnesses, So whether it's things like autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, all these kinds of things. So when I first had this first Mind Forum, though, that was like, I just loved it so much as light bulbs all went on, because I could specialise in the broadest possible sense. So I started doing a lot of work then with children with ASD. And that was incredibly challenging, but incredibly rewarding as well. And because of the degree of the conditions that these kids have and the degree of gut disorders and metabolic issues that they have, and because of the passion that is driven behind the parents and carers of these kids, the research that was coming out around these conditions was just far beyond the general collection of research. And so I found, by working with these kids and learning what I could from these kids, I was then actually able to help all my other patients much more effectively. It really translated to helping everyone. So I think, and a lot of those concepts that we were learning back then within Mind are just now becoming popular in the last couple of years in the general integrative medicine field, like things like pyrroles and methylation and the microbiome and all this kind of stuff, where we were really jumping into it a lot earlier, biofilm stuff, all these kinds of things.
So you've been graduated since 2001.
Yeah.
So you've been in practice basically 16 years.
Yeah.
So what is the trend that you're seeing that you didn't see in 2001 with health issues with our kids and adults. Are you seeing something that just keeps popping up that you never saw when you graduated?
I would say the biggest thing that keeps popping up now versus then is autoimmunity. Yeah. It's
Does that mean it wasn't
rife.
around then, or is it?
No,
just
it was
become
definitely around, but it wasn't. There wasn't such a large percentage of, my patient group that was exhibiting any signs of autoimmunity back then, whereas now it's rife and it's happening at younger and younger ages. So I've had, 2-year-olds with rheumatoid arthritis, which was basically unheard of before.
Why do you think this is happening?
So, well, I guess if you look at health in general, I kind of whittle it down to a couple of key causes. We've got too much of stuff and not enough of other stuff. So we've got toxicity and deficiency, but we've got so many environmental exposures that are affecting our microbiome and our immune regulation. And the microbiome plays a huge role in immune regulation anyway. So we've got a lot of inflammatory processes that are just not switching off, because obviously inflammation is important in the short term, but it's required for tissue healing and all this kind of thing. But we don't want it to stay switched on, and we want to make sure that there are the nutrients and substrates available that we need to be able to get toxins out of our cells and eliminate them from the body, and regulate hormones and immune function. And all of these things are just so discombobulated at the moment that we're getting this multi-system kind of dysfunction. So it can result in so many different disorders. There's more than 100 different autoimmune conditions, but really it's the same. There's a few differences going on in different areas, and different ones have different amounts of genetic influence involved, but we also know that epigenetics is incredibly important and powerful, and a lot of these things are very heavily influenced by diet and lifestyle. So there's
Yeah. And we are seeing more and more.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know where it's going to end, but something has to be done.
Yeah.
And like I've just been in the US, and just nobody seems to. They seem to just be carrying on with their lives, doing. I know there's a group that aren't. I definitely know that. I know that the group that are genuinely going, I am going to make a difference. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to do it this way.
And fortunately, I think that group is growing. I think we're kind of reaching a bit of a tipping point to it, but because a lot of change is happening, there's a lot more awareness. I mean, even people knowing what naturopathy is. When I first graduated, and you'd be out and meeting people, and they'd be saying, "What are you doing?" And I say, "I'm a naturopath," and they kind of look at you with a confused face and like, "Do you know what that is?" And no, you don't know whether to say yes or no. But whereas now it's like, "Oh, great, my naturopath this, or my mum says this, or my cousin says," There's a lot more. I think people have got to that point where they're getting sick of feeling sick, and they're looking for other answers. But on the flip side of that, that's not the majority of the population still, which is the sad and frustrating side of it, because there's so much damage still happening and we really need to turn around. It's not a one-stop kind of solution. It's our whole philosophy and lifestyle. And, again, it's about getting back into how can we actually work with nature rather than raping, pillaging and destroying it, because it's destroying us as well.
I think you said something at the very beginning, though, based on you were learning all this stuff, you were hearing all this stuff, you were exposed to all of this stuff, but you still didn't make the connection. And I think that's where the bulk of the community is. I had a lady ring me 2 days ago. She's just found out she's pregnant, and she's really worried about the oils. And I said, in what way? And she said, well, I just don't know if I should be using lavender. I've heard that some of the oils are really, not good for you during pregnancy. And she said, and I'm just worried about inhaling them. I said, do you fill up your car with petrol? Yes. Do you smell the fumes when you're filling up those cars? Oh, yes, she said. And she goes, actually, funny you should say that. I was cleaning my bathroom just yesterday, smelling the bleach, thinking, I wonder if I should be smelling that. But I carried on using it anyway. Yeah. And when she said that, all of a sudden then she started laughing. She goes, oh my God, this is a really silly question. And I loved it.
Yeah.
But the reality is bleach has been around for generations and generations. We fill our cars up with petrol for generations and generations. But for some reason, even though essential oils have been around for over 4,000 years as essential oils, because it's a new therapy, it's almost like you were saying, naturopathy was so new. Yet naturopathy is based on culture and tradition from thousands and thousands of years. So it's kind of weird that connection isn't occurring until it's almost so obviously stated that we go, oh. So I don't know how we make the penny drop, or we have the connection go back to what actually was or is the natural laws of the universe, nature, rhythms of cycle, seasonal behaviour, all of these sorts of things. It's almost like we are so disconnected and we're making it all sound like it's not part of the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the more people I work with, the more that just gets confirmed for me. It is this whole picture, and there's no, you know, quick answers, quick fixes. It's an evolution that we need to continue on.
But the problem is that that's all we know is quick fixes.
Yeah, that's what we're used to.
We're used to,
and we're used to handing over that responsibility to somebody else instead of taking it on ourselves. And I think one of the problems is as well, there's in this modern Western society anyway, there's a really negative connotation around responsibility. It's like something that's done with obligation and heavy kind of energy. There's a lot of people who don't really want to grow up in that sense, but when you look at the word responsibility, it's your ability to respond, right? And it's actually very empowering and energizing if you actually take that on, and it's like, okay, I've actually got the power to change what's in my household, and that's where we have the highest degree of chemical exposure on a day-to-day basis, what we're using in our house and what we're putting on our body. So and what we're eating. So just by addressing those three things, you make massive change, and that just doesn't just change what's in your house as well. That changes the whole system, because you're voting with your wallet too. You know, you're changing economics and farming and industry to deliver what you're requesting. So the power, you know, it sounds kind of cliche, but the power really is with the people. And it's only going to change from that direction, because trying to change things from top down, there's too many vested interests and there's too much bureaucracy and too much paperwork, basically. But by, you know, grassroots movements and encouraging people to take responsibility first for themselves and then the people around them, then that's where real change happens. And I think we're starting to see that, because it's spreading and it's growing. We just have a lot more to do still.
When I really think about it, like I'm thinking of my grandmother and her era, so from my generation. If you think about it, before Grandma, when she would have been a mother, so in the 50s, which was when television really started coming to the fore and there was a lot more ability to communicate messages and things. When I think about it, pre-Grandma, so I'm sure her mother would never have seen television and things like that. Therefore, all they knew was what the communities and the farming and that was kind of like that was norm. I look back at Grandma and I think when she came in, it would have been so exciting to see science and to see these new products and getting women out of the kitchen, so to speak, and drugs were really, and it was like doctors became gods.
Yes.
And I almost feel like doctors, pharmaceuticals and chemicals became this godly quick fix kind of thing. And I just wonder, because Grandma, even still up until she passed away, you know, 8 years ago, I go, you know, she still thought that Panadol was the answer and that it was okay. So even though she loved her lavender as well, she still had this belief. It was almost like she had these double beliefs. So I'm wondering now, and with the power of television, now we've moved into an age of information technology with the internet. I'm just wondering also too that perhaps it's not so much the masses, but again, getting back to your tribe, your community. And Charlotte Carr said this the other day when we were talking, and it's kind of connecting the dots with me, is rather than thinking of your business as trying to reach the masses, all you need is 1,000 avid followers and believers in what you're about to have an amazing business. 1,000 people who are real passionate advocates about your message. And you've just said it then, bring it back into the home. It's almost like we don't have to worry about the top people.
We don't need to go global, bring it back to the communities.
And so I'm feeling like we're doing a circle, but yet with the internet, it's kind of also really fast-paced, and it can turn one way really quickly, and it can turn one way really quickly. So what do you think is the answer there then, when you have so many people, like we see it with Banned by Pete Evans groups and people like that have these, 1 minute people are saying it's not right, and then they create a group that's telling everyone that's saying this way is wrong. It's kind of like, it's almost nasty and scary, and people don't really know who to believe anymore.
I think you're right. They don't know who to believe. And like, look in our community, I don't know if you know what's happening in our community, but there's a dairy farm, I think it's out at Kenilworth, and they're not doing so well financially. They're trying to, do it, but milk's prices are going down. So they decided that they would allow campers to camp on their creek.
Yeah.
And they have a beautiful creek that runs through their property. Well, the council have basically said, you need permits, you need this, you need that, and you owe us this much money because you've been doing things illegally. So that was the first thing. And then Urban Street, I don't know if you've heard about Urban Street.
Oh, that gutters me.
That's just like...
That's criminal.
That is criminal. I am Sustainability Businesswoman of the Year, sponsored by the council. I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I say this publicly. I am absolutely embarrassed that they have gone in and we're not even telling the residents that they were going to chop down citrus trees that were laden with fruit. Laden with fruit, without saying, look, we're going to have to chop them down. We want you to harvest, but this is what we're going to have to do. But there was... I just what is wrong? I will not be voting for our council again. There is no way. I thought Jamison was somebody that I could trust. I really did. I thought he was somebody that was going to lead this into being, what is it? Innovative, creative, sustainable. That they have a vision and they are not working on their vision. And
I think you said there's so much bureaucracy. Like, I think he's a good person, but I think he's perhaps being swayed by the masses again.
Well, I don't know. He's the head. He should be able to make changes.
A lot of the people at the heads don't often make the decision. It's based on voting and all that sort of thing. They're just the face. But I'm not
maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I'm not making allowances, system. But it was apparently there was lots of emails and letters sent to those people in the street saying this would happen. That they didn't have permits, that it was seen as a safety problem. And I'm like,
which is
are you kidding
ridiculous.
Me? Are you kidding me? I completely agree with
There's a tree in the road.
Oh my God.
Nobody can see it. They're going to trip over it, laden with fruit.
I don't understand it. But
we're good at, from an authority perspective, at breeding dumb humans, everything. When we get too safety conscious, obviously it's so important to be able to make mistakes, take risks, be able to assess risks, but we're not taught to do that anymore because all of those experiences are taken away. No, that's too dangerous. You're not allowed to do that. No, you can't camp there. You need a permit. No, you can't cross the street without a light. Like all of these things, we're just getting so dumbed down that really frustrates me as well.
You just hit the nail. It's dumbing down. It's actually questioning our intellect as beings, and it's natural to want to grow trees.
Yeah, we should be growing food everywhere. And there's no reason for a food crisis.
Even today on our walk, the first thing Helen noticed was someone had herbs out in their front food in their front garden, and I was like, it's really cool. Don't have to do a lot, like you say, bring it back.
That's right.
What do you think would be your advice to people listening to this? I would dare say the listeners that listen to this, apart from the trollers that want to go and tell Banned by Pete Evans. Hello.
We love you too. We know you're in pain.
Anyway, Les. But our listeners are very, I would suggest, educated, and that's why they love to listen to people like you. what would be your advice, not to them, because they're already on board. What's your advice in order to be the example, or how do we create a tsunami of change by being the example? What's the job, apart from bringing it into the home? What's your thoughts?
Well, I guess one thing I like to say is vitality is contagious. So first of all, as you said, you can only do it yourself. You know, you can plant seeds for people, but you can take a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink, right? So the best way to do it is live really congruently for yourself first. If you've got children and family, then that is going to spread to them, even if you don't think it is, or even when you think they're not listening, one day you'll find out, oh, they actually took that on, you know. And so that is really powerful for parents to live by their values, and actually for mums as well to put themselves first, because a lot of the time they don't do these things for themselves because they're putting so much care out for their children and everybody else. But their children actually really benefit from that self-care and nourishment and living by their values. So I think, living by your values, and once that happens, people will start asking as well, you know, oh, what are you doing? Or you'll have the opportunity to have conversations with people where you don't want to be preachy. You don't want to be saying, oh, you shouldn't do that, you should be doing this, you know. But if someone's telling you about their problems and they're telling you what they've been trying to do to resolve those problems, and it may not be the most effective way, rather than just saying, oh, well, I've found this way to work, that can put defenses up for people. You can ask, okay, so how's that working for you? You know, and get that thought process going in other people without any judgment, because they're doing the best that they can do with the knowledge that they have. So just stimulating questions to trigger that processing in others.
And I think the key there, you said too, is to not have an attachment to it, because it's very hard when you see people you care for making decisions that you wish they wouldn't make. Absolutely. Or that you wish they'd investigate, but they're not interested, and they could be very educated
their path,
people.
it's their journey.
Although I saw a quote the other day, education's not everything. There's plenty of educated derelicts out there. I thought that was cute. Yeah. But I think
experience is so important.
But I think the other thing there is, it's all very good and well to ask the questions and to do that, but also not have an attachment of the outcome. Yeah. Even though you might feel it's the worst thing, or even the trees. Like I have not stopped thinking about it, Cindy.
Me too.
And particularly you being the Sustainable Woman of the Year up here, there was a part of me that thought, wow, what an insult to what we consider sustainability. Yeah. I would have thought, having someone like Cindy, this was my thoughts just because I want to go back to it, is that they could have called you in and had a council meeting with someone like you and discussed the benefits for and against, and how we can come to a conclusive outcome that benefit the environment, the people growing it, and someone like Cindy, and even our mayor. So for me, it's like, it's conversations. But what do you both think, though, when you want to have the conversations and they still, the authority still comes in, these people that supposedly know more, and still chop down the trees? And I'm just using this as a metaphor. What do you do when the trees still get cut down? Like, we can rant and rave, we can swear, we can curse, we can say they're idiots, but reality is it's happened. What do we do now?
For me, it's being an individual as an example of change. That I choose, like my biggest beef was to stop glyphosate being sprayed on our parks and our gardens and our verges and our sports grounds. And it's like knocking my head against a brick wall. I went to one council meeting where I got a private audience with this one lady. And I thought she, living in Maleny, was the person she was the hippie and she would be into this. And you know what she said to me? She said, oh, Cindy, we've been working on this for 5 years. And I went, 5 years? And you still haven't stopped using that poison? I just was like, you give me no hope. No hope that you, the council, have been working on this for 5 years to find an alternative. It's just, so I think you hit it on the head, Helen. we have to, as individuals, choose not to do this. It's nothing about the trees that have been cut down. We can't do anything about that. But maybe plant the trees in our own backyard. That's all I can think of.
Get some pot plants going.
Yeah, get some pot plants going and just go, it's been done. Let's plant in our own yards now. I think it's very sad that we can't use our verges for planting food. To me, I go up to Urban Street and I walk around Urban Street. It's a community. People are out on the verges, doing things, picking, interacting. Hi, everybody knows everyone. My street, we ignore each other.
Yeah.
Because I wanted a community garden. We have this amazing area in our street. I wanted a community garden years ago, and there was a council meeting and everything about it, and all the old people in the street were going, oh, wait, who's going to look after it? No, we're not going to do that. No. And they put pretty trees up. That's all they do. And a park, they put this beautiful thing about the numbers, because everyone got confused about the numbers, and then they put a park bench. Well, they could have planted citrus trees. We could be eating mandarins right now. I think it's frustrating, and I try to ignore it because there's so much good happening in the world. But I actually think it is about us planting in our own backyard, doing our own thing.
Yeah. Everyone's got that power to do that.
Everyone has that power to do it. If you're a lobbyist, great. I met this beautiful woman in the US who's a lobbyist for climate change because that's what she wants to do. And that's what she is doing. Yeah. And not every one of us, because she's a solicitor. Yeah. So.
And if you don't want to be the trailblazer out the front like her or like yourselves, then get in behind people like yourselves and be a part of that movement. You don't have to be out the front.
No, it can be such simple things. Yeah, like we said, just start at home. Start with yourself. Start at home. They're little changes. They are not expensive either. They often save money. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it, and it does have a profound effect. Like if you look at financial reviews, the amount of change in certain industries with food, for example, over the last few years has actually changed quite significantly because of the consumers and the choices that consumers are making. So that goes to show how powerful just your everyday choices are. I think that's incredibly important.
And the more people that make those choices and make the changes, like I go along that chemical aisle and I don't buy anything in that aisle, not a thing in that aisle. And I kind of go, if everybody stopped, that aisle would be gone. If everyone stopped eating breakfast cereal, that aisle would be gone. If everyone stopped drinking Coca-Cola, that aisle would be gone. Yeah. It's not hard. Coca-Cola, breakfast cereals and chemicals.
Yeah, well, actually, and none of them are necessary.
No, none of them are necessary.
You say it's not hard, but I was speaking at the gym the other day to someone who drinks 2 litres of Coke a day.
Diet Coke, would that be? Would that person be a male?
Yes.
Would we know him?
That's the Diet Coke one. The other one is a Coke one.
Oh, God.
And he actually stood there saying, I find it, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling.
But that's where we need to go into addiction and what's driving addiction as well, which is a whole nother.
Helen, today we were talking on our beach walk.
Let's just go lay down and do that.
Let's go lie in the sun.
Let's just go lay in the sun.
Get some vitamin D.
Right, upper chat's finished. We're done.
We're on our beach walk today. Helen, she's done a beautiful book with Pete Evans.
Oh, yes. We had to go there.
We all love what his mission is, and I think we're all aligned with that. And regardless of what people think of Pete or don't think of Pete, his heart is about helping to change people the way we eat. Then I asked you, what are you doing? How do you get to the masses? I want you to share what you talked about with why you created 9v9 and about getting it back to simplicity.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing, so I wanted an avenue to be able to reach more people because there are obviously very many people who need help and only a limited amount that you can see in clinic or who can see you. And so I wanted to see what are the common themes, that I'm talking about with people every day. And regardless of what conditions people are coming to see me with, because I see a lot of people who have been chronically ill for quite a while with all manner of different conditions. Regardless of what it is, 80% of what we need to do is exactly the same, maybe even more, right? And this comes back down to that wellness model where rather than looking at the disease and treating the disease, we're looking to achieve wellness, right? And if we're looking to achieve wellness, then what we need to do is live according to the laws of nature. And therefore, the same rules apply to everybody. So that simplifies things a lot. Then we might need to do some, individual approaches for different people, depending what's going on with them, what their experience is, all of that kind of thing. But the bulk of it is the same. So getting more of that information out to more people so that they can at least get a start, because I think a lot of the time the hardest thing is making that first step, whatever it is in life, right? And it's often that not taking that first step that stops us just getting started on the journey. And the first step can seem like Everest before you get going. And particularly if you look at all the things you need to do, then it's like, oh, that's just too much for me. And a lot of online programs I find are quite either long or detailed. There's a lot involved, or there's a lot of time involved. And that can stop people as well. So I wanted something that was really simple and that I knew would elicit a change. And in doing so, build some energy and inspiration so that they would want to then go and do more. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I came up with 9v9. So 9v9 is literally just eating 9 cups of veggies a day for 9 days, and that's all there is to it. You don't have to take out anything. You can drink and smoke and have coffee and everything else if you want to. Obviously, I don't advocate doing that all the time, but all you have to do is bring in 9 cups of veggies. And the reason being, generally speaking, regardless of your dietary philosophy, most people in Australia, most people in developed countries, full stop, do not eat enough vegetables. So, and I work with a lot of people who do have autoimmune conditions, and I do really love Terry Wall's work. And 9 cups of veggies a day is what is part of the Walls protocol. And so I'm talking to patients a lot about that. So that's where I came up with the 9 cups. And the 9 days, apart from that, it has a little ring to it when you say 9v9, is that it's long enough for people to experience a change in the way that they're feeling on many levels, as it turns out, physical, mental and emotional. But it's short enough that it's easy to commit to, and it's a challenge. So, it's something that's fun and engaging you can do with others. And we have a Facebook group for it, and people are really supportive and encouraging. And it actually blows me away. I've been working for food for, 16 years. And while I know the power of food, it still never ceases to amaze me and inspire me. And I had high hopes for 9v9, but I was still blown away by the feedback and responses that we've got of just how one change can elicit so much impact. So
can you give us some examples of some of the people that have been on the Facebook page?
Oh, we've had everybody.
Let's have some examples. Yeah.
So we have had truck drivers. It was so cool. Like, I just thought, yes, it was like truck driver and a country guy. And they ended up having this conversation in the group about, it got quite spiritual and philosophical about the impact of having more coloured foods in their day, more vibrant live foods in their day had on them. And I was like, my God, if I can reach truck drivers, that's just amazing. And then I've had quite a few practitioners go through and do the program as well, and just go, I normally eat a lot of veggies, or I thought I ate a lot of veggies, but I didn't realize how much more I could do and how much better I feel doing that. So these are, practitioners, nutritionists who technically we think are already on top of it all, but have still had a lot of benefit from it. We've had people who haven't been sleeping for years who are now sleeping better, who have had restless leg, who aren't getting restless leg anymore, and they were taking bucket loads of magnesium and still had restless leg and now don't. Clarity, energy, and you can see as well, we get people to take selfies before and after, and pictures of their tongues as well, and the difference in their skin and their eyes and their tongues before and after is just fantastic. So and joint pains, all of these, so many these things actually have big impacts on people's lives, but so many symptoms that people just get used to dealing with every day. that clear up has just been so cool to
And
see.
how much is the program, and how can people get onto it, and when's the next intake?
So it is $75, and in that 9 days we have 3 live chats as well. So you can ask me whatever questions that you want, which I want to be able to provide that time because, clinic is booked out and not able to take new patients at the moment. So this is a way for me to be able to connect to more people as well.
Yeah,
get them started. And these are things to go and talk to your practitioner about and that kind of thing. And we don't have a date yet for the next one, but stay tuned. So you can sign up to helenpadarin.com and we'll send out newsletters there and Facebook
We'll put that
and
in the
Instagram.
show notes so everyone knows how to spell it.
Yeah. Yeah, so and Facebook and Instagram, we notify everyone there when dates are set. So, and there's more courses in the works as well. So.
And tell us about the Gut Health book with Pete.
And how was it working with Pete? We love Pete.
Yeah, no, he actually is great to work with, and like you said before, he's got just such a admirable mission. Before I didn't even know who Pete was, right? Before I met him, I don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV for most of my life. I'm not up to date with what's going on in the media. And so I did not know who he was, but I knew how popular cooking shows were, and I had so many friends who were watching them, and I was like, I wish there was a celebrity chef who would take on real food. Imagine the impact that you could have. And anyway,
in more ways than we expected with Pete.
Yeah,
Poor Pete.
Exactly.
I gotta say this.
Yeah,
it blows me away that he is ridiculed for just talking about real food.
I know.
I know he takes food groups out, but it's still real food. It's still food, and there are civilizations that live on his food.
Yeah,
and they still live today, and they're not sick.
Yeah,
it's just they're such
it's okay
narrow-minded.
to have 1 litre cans of V in the supermarket at child height. And there's no argument about that. This is one thing when BubbaYumYum came out, right?
Oh,
Let's talk about that.
yeah, let's talk about that one.
Open up the can of worms. So that was...
Which will we talk about first? That book or this book that we're talking about? Oh, my God.
BubbaYumYum.
Yeah, let's go BubbaYumYum first.
Chronological.
Yeah, okay, let's do that one.
So, BubbaYumYum was a big passion project. It was something that we all believed a great deal in and still do. And we knew we would get some flack for it because we knew it was not what the current mainstream guidelines are about, but I guess we didn't quite expect the degree of heat and storm that did come with it. So, and it got so nasty. People were so nasty, and so nasty without actually being informed. But there was so much heated opinion and emotion, and people would send messages and emails with language in it that you would just never, you would never say to anybody face to face. Well, most people wouldn't. So it was a pretty horrible experience. It created a lot of stress. We had great support. Pete's more used to getting beaten up than Shah and I are, so he was really great support for us through that and his team.
Shah miscarried as well. That's how much stress it took.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
No, and they don't know the impact
knows
of what
was going on behind the scenes. It was intense, and I've been married before and gone through separation and divorce, and this is like the second most stressful experience I went through. And I was getting threats from DAA and FSANZ, and and if you don't respond within an hour, we're lodging complaints with HCCC. It was just a mess. It was a nightmare. The week of my birthday I was crying every day. It was just had to take a mental health day off work. It got to the point where on several occasions we just thought, do we just throw in the towel here? Do we give up on this project?
Before we go on, because there are some people that may not know. I can't imagine in Australia, but there could be overseas, may not know exactly what this is about. So it's about one recipe in the whole cookbook for children. And it was a formula that was not based on any milk.
That's right.
It was based on a bone broth.
Yeah. And
which is a traditional recipe from thousands of years ago.
That has been published hundreds of
thousands of times.
Before. No babies have died.
No babies have died in the using of this formula. So this is what the crux of the matter was. I just want people to understand that they don't live in Australia.
There was also a lot of misinformation in the media too, of people saying that we were suggesting to give bone broth instead of breast milk, which of course is ludicrous. You know, it's just, and then we have a pediatrician who hasn't even seen the book who says if parents follow this, a baby could die, and then the media just go gangbusters.
I know, they took it on.
So and we did so much research. Yeah,
you think it was Pete?
Pete, paleo, and babies in one sentence. Not a good idea.
Pete, paleo, baby.
Wrong.
All of a sudden, fire. Yeah. So you know, it's
But the thing that I don't get, and this is something I would love our listeners to hear. When you criticise somebody, when you knock somebody, and we've all done it probably, we've all sat there armchair critics, or we've all sat there watching a sportsman miss a try, or watching an athlete miss a goal, or watching a mum yell at her child, or we've all stood there and maybe rolled our eyes. I will not deny I have not looked at someone at some point and not thought an opinion. As I've got older and as I've become a mum and a teacher and an educator and being involved with Cindy and Pete, God forbid, and I've had people absolutely annihilate me, and I'm all about kindness and self-care
I know.
and plants and love, and I've still been ridiculed and hurt and really upset. I've cried myself to sleep. What people don't realise, as you sit there behind your keyboard or your phone, or you have an opinion on somebody, or you roll your eyes at a mother, you have no idea what that woman has been through to get to that point to yell at a child. I'm not saying it's right, but look at why she's done it, not how she's done it.
Yeah.
Go up to her and say,
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Can I help
Can
you?
I help you? Rather than sit there judging. I've had women come up to me and told me I am a disgusting piece of humanity because my child is screaming in a store because I wouldn't give him a Spider-Man toy, and he's just had a tantrum because he can't have it, and I refuse to let him have it, and I've been told I'm a disgusting example of humanity. And then I had another one, I will say, bless her, and I'm on the verge of tears, say to me, "You're doing a great job." It was her that was nice to me that made me burst into tears. But just have a little think before you have a dig at what people are doing. What would be your thoughts around that, being on the receiving
I think
end of that?
you never know somebody's story until you talk to them and ask them. So I think I find that really fascinating. I was mentioning to you the other day, you know, we see people walking around all the time and we automatically, it's part of our nature, and I guess as part of survival mechanisms and things like that, we cast judgments. But there's a difference between recognizing that you're doing that and stopping and going, actually, I know nothing about this person or this situation or what's going on here. Maybe I'll talk to them or ask them about it. Or I think it's really important to, look under the surface, and particularly when media is involved. Like, I have always known that mainstream media is full of crap. It's a large reason why I don't have TV and don't read newspapers, that kind of thing, because it's basically all lies anyway. But this, I got an insider's view or an insider experience of it, and I just realised,
because you knew the truth.
I knew the truth, and I knew where this project had come from. Like, you know, the surface level criticisms were, we're just doing it for the money and all this kind of stuff. I tell you what, there's a lot better ways to be making money than to be doing something like this, and we haven't made a cent from it. In fact, you know, there's a lot of debt as a result of that whole media storm. So, and it was a reason why we thought, do we just pull the plug? But we thought, when we got out of our head and out of that fear-based thinking and sunk into our hearts, we're like, well, why are we actually doing this? Like, no, mothers and fathers and children are actually really needing this information. We need to get it out there, and that's why we went on with it, and that's why it is now available. But it did come close to having the pin pulled. So I think...
Well, it was pulled, wasn't it, by the Macmillan? Was it Macmillan?
Yeah, because they're big customers, like Big W, that kind of thing. They're not fans of controversy. So then if they don't order the book, then they can't sell it. So they were quite supportive of us, but economically they had to pull the pin. Yeah.
But hadn't they already published the books?
They had published books, but we couldn't say that the formula was a formula because technically it's not a formula. So we had to rename it and do a few things.
A formula, Kimmy does a formula in essential oils.
Yeah, but in terms of a baby formula, it's a powder that you mix with water, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, yeah. But I think just be really aware of what is in the media and be an independent thinker is my biggest thing. I think the most valuable thing we can do for our children is encourage them to think independently and not take what they hear as gospel, and encourage curiosity and always inquire into things. And if you hear something, it's actually it's fine to be a skeptic, but you still have to be have an open mind. And so that you can look into it and then determine for yourself, actually, where's the truth in this. And there's so much research that went into that book. I mean, aside from the gut health book, which as a result of BubbaYumYum is also very heavily researched to make sure every T was crossed and I dotted. They're probably the most referenced cookbooks on the planet, right? So, and we had the books fact checked, and we had researchers do independent research to back up what we're saying, just to make sure. So I know it is watertight. I know it is beautiful, safe, nourishing information and tools that parents can use for BubbaYumYum, and anybody can use for the gut health book to start improving their health. So I'm 100% behind them.
I hope so. And I hope people are hearing this for what it is, because that's what people don't realise. They'll read a book and they don't realise the cost that's gone into getting some research done, or getting editors, or getting cover design. Like, the cost that goes into a book is, you are talking, and most cookbooks are around, and this is just a general cookbook, costs you $70,000 to get a cookbook off the ground with full colour photography and all that. And that's not a controversial or a health.
No, controversial ones are more like 120,000.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I just wanted to ask you. And then when you look at BubbaYumYum, that cost, people don't look at it, and they're all saying, well, you're doing it to make money. No, actually, if you look at Charlotte, Helen and Pete, their vision, their passion, their absolute purpose was to support women that could not, because of all these gut conditions, that their babies were getting allergic to milk, or there was problems around.
And just with general kids' health, as we mentioned at the very start of it, we're seeing younger and younger kids with more and more serious conditions. And so 2-year-olds with rheumatoid arthritis, I'm not okay with that, So this is a way for us to, and it's not going to happen immediately, but the better we're nourishing ourselves and our kids, I mean, particularly with kids, they're building everything from scratch, this affects them for the rest of their lives. So we need to get the good nourishment, the good building tools in as early as possible, and that can change. That, I hope, like to say, that can change the world. The better functioning we are, the better feeling we are, usually the better we are at interacting with others, and the happier the world is.
What would be your final message for our beautiful listeners?
Final message for beautiful listeners would be to tap into what gives you joy and to live according to your values. So we get so busy these days. I think our biggest epidemic is busyness, and it drags us away from connection to ourselves and to others and to nature. And I think we need those 3 things to live well and healthy and happy. And we need that joy, because that actually gives us energy and inspiration. And the biggest thing I see in people with chronic illnesses is they're totally disconnected from their joy, might not even know what it is anymore. So find out what your joy is, go practice it, go do it, and live according to your values, and you can make changes one step at a time. One change will make a big impact.
You're amazing.
Thank you, Helen.
She's beautiful. She's hot. She's absolutely divine. She's got a big heart. Helen, what's your website again?
HelenPadarin.com.
So that's HelenPadarin.com. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll put a link to your 9v9. I'm hoping by the time this goes to air, you'll have your next date in there for us.
You never know.
And I just want you to know from Cindy, Karen and I, the work you do does not go unnoticed. You are a beautiful friend of ours. We admire you wholeheartedly, and we cannot wait to see the more lives that you change. Follow her on Instagram. She always posts recipes. She takes photos of everything I make her. She's just adorable and has self-care at the forefront like all of us. So just want to say thank you. It's been an honour and a privilege.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, the admiration is mutual. So love you guys.
Love you too. So listeners, if you've enjoyed this podcast this week, please make sure you go and let Helen know. Go and find her on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, her programs and websites. Make sure you go to thewellnesscouch.com/up for a chat and post all your comments and feedback there. Please go to iTunes. For those of you that are on iTunes and have the Apple devices, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating so that we can get this information out more. For those of you, I think there's still one place left on our trek and our hike to New Zealand in November. So that's awakenthechangewithin.com. Please go there or let Karen know instantly and immediately if you'd like to be part of that, or Africa next year. Helen, you might want to come with us to Africa.
It's going to be
amazing. I keep seeing all the Frank pictures and all the things.
It's going to be amazing. You want to learn about Himbas and the bush people of the Kalahari.
Oh, I mean, New Zealand's just an appetizer.
I know.
So, Helen, maybe you should come to New Zealand.
Maybe.
Anyway, so please also go to our Facebook page, which is Up for a Chat. So, listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being our support and the wind beneath our wings as to why we keep continuing to do these podcasts every week when we're all so busy, but we just love bringing you guests like Helen. Take care, everybody. Look after yourselves. We look forward to seeing you next week when we hope to be part of the ripple effect that's changing the world. Take care.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.